Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday, all. My name is Hayley Andrews. You're watching At Home with Hayley. I don't even know what week we're on now. I'd have to check that number, but hopefully you guys are still enjoying these webinars, and hopefully you've all had an awesome week as well, and a productive one at best. So guys, we have a great show for you today. We're going to be talking all about regeneration and how it can help you, your business, and areas of focus as well. We have an awesome guest who I'll introduce a little bit later on. But before I jump into my update to give you guys an idea of what's going on here in the UK, can you guys just let me know if you can hear me okay? So Katria, good morning. Good morning very much. Thank you. Right, okay. So guys, you can hear me. That's all good. I can see the numbers slowly coming through. So I am going to pop off camera, get started with my update. Morning, Felix. Morning, Laura. Morning, Sue. Morning, Jonathan. Brilliant. Guys, I'm going to jump. Morning, everyone. I'm going to jump into my update and hopefully give you some good insights into the UK at this moment in time. Morning, Joe. Right, so got a whole load of data here for you guys. So I thought it'd be a good idea to focus on house prices, as of course that's what we're very much focusing on at this moment in time, along with Brexit and coronavirus rising cases as well. So very much the topic here in the UK. So the UK House Price Index then for July, and you may be thinking, well, why is she talking about July? But it's become apparent as I start going through these notes here. So in England, July data shows an average, or on average, house prices have risen by 0.7% since June 2020. The annual price rise of 2.5% takes the average property value to now, which is astronomical really, but the average property value to 254,688p. The regional data for England indicates that Yorkshire and the Humber experienced the greatest monthly price rise, and that was up by 1.5%. London saw the lowest monthly price growth with a rise of 0.1%, and the West Midlands experienced the greatest annual price rise, up by 4.3%, which is awesome. The Southeast saw the lowest annual price growth with a rise of 1%. So what does that mean? So average prices, or by property type in England now, so we're going to give a comparable for July 2020, and this is actual data because it takes some time for this data to come through, and July 2019, and then the difference in percentages there for you to really give you an idea of where we are in the market right now. So for detached houses, an average price now is 386,985p. That's July 2020 data. So if we look at July 2019, we're looking at a difference there of 3%, and average prices in 2019 was 375,878. Semi-detached houses were 241,251 as an average price in 2020. 2019, 232,701, so a difference of 3.7%. Terraced houses in July, average now is 207,000, and in July 2020 was 201, so a 2.8% difference. For flats and masonettes, averages were 226, and in 2019, 227, so a minus 0.5%. So there's a real kind of view of the growth within the different averages across all property types there. We haven't looked at land or anything else, but if we look at London then, because London is a different market to the rest of the UK, along with Edinburgh as well. So, you know, as I've spoken, you know, over the weeks, that we have lots of different little micro markets here in the UK. But London shows an average house prices have risen by 0.1% since June 2020, and an annual price rise of 1.3%. takes the average property value now in London to 484,864. In Wales then, Wales shows an average, or on average, house prices have risen by 1.7% since June 2020, and an annual price rise of 3.6%. And this takes the average property value now to 170,415. So the UK HPI, which is the house price index, is based on completed housing transactions. So typically a house purchase can take around 6 to 8 weeks to reach completion. So the price data feeding through now, the July 2020 UK HPI, will mainly reflect those agreements that occurred after the government measures to reduce the spread of coronavirus took place. So UK house prices then increased by 2.3% in the year of July 2020, but down from 2.9% in June 2020. On a non-seasonal adjusted basis, average house prices in the UK increased by 0.5% between June 2020 and July 2020, compared to a rise of 1.1% during the same period a year earlier. So 2019 to June 2019 to July 2019, just to put that into perspective. The UK property transaction statistics for July showed that a seasonal adjustment basis, the estimated number of transactions of residential properties with a value of £40,000 or greater was 70,290. This is a 27.8% lower than a year ago. Between June 2020 and July 2020, transactions increased by 13.5%. So there was a lot of activity there. House price growth was strongest in Wales, where prices increased by 3.6% over the year to July 2020. The highest annual growth within the English regions was the West Midlands. Woohoo! Which is where the bulk of my portfolio is. Where average house prices there grew by 4.3%. So the lowest annual growth was in the southeast, where house prices increased by 1% over the year to July 2020. Of course, the next bit of data will be coming out mid-October, which will have will give us stronger statistics of what's going on. So I thought it'd be a good idea, because the topic today is all about regeneration, and we have a guest that's going to be talking about their area and what the regeneration plan has done for their area and what it means to you as an investor. So if we focus on regeneration overall, I'm going to give you a few sites and a few statistics and a few names for you to be able to write down and then research in your own time and come back and ask any questions. Also, guys, what we're going to be doing is, and you can let me know if this is a good idea or not, because if it's not, then I'm not going to do it, because I very much want to deliver what's beneficial to you guys. But based off the feedback I've been getting from you guys, you've been asking me questions about area research. How do we find out what's going on? Where do you get the plans from? How do you know how much money? So what I thought would be a good idea is, I'm going to list now all of the regeneration areas of 2020 and 2021. But I thought it'd be a good idea to focus on different regions each week. So guys, in the chat box, let me know. There will be no hard feelings if you don't see any beneficial from that particular subject. But I was going to take a short 15 minutes each week to focus on different regeneration areas within a region, until we cover the whole of the UK. So just let me know if you're interested in that. So that being said then, one of the websites I want you guys to check out, which will help you massively, is, and one of the things that a lot of people have spoken about for at least the last 4 years now, is HS2. So if you jot this website down, www.hs2.org.uk. That will give you an overall view. But just to give you a bit of insight around that, High Speed Rail 2 is a planned high-speed railway intended to link Birmingham, Carlisle, Chesterfield, Crewe, East Midlands, Edinburgh, Glasgow, Leeds, Liverpool, London, Manchester, Newcastle, Preston, Sheffield, Warrington and York, on a mixture of existing and new high-speed tracks. So a few areas then of regeneration. So there's 69 areas, good number, 69 areas with benefits that will benefit from this scheme designed to breathe new life into high streets. So 69 historic English towns and cities will benefit from 95 million regeneration fund. The funding is intended to breathe new life into the struggling high streets across the country by transforming abandoned buildings into shops, houses and community centres, all for the good of the public and to encourage people to come back into the town centres. So town centres, towns and city centres, bid after the scheme was announced in May. The West Midlands was the winning largest share of 21.1 million of that particular pot. The government's Future High Street Fund is providing 52 million. The Department for Digital Culture, Media and Sport is providing 40 million, and the National Lottery Heritage Fund another further 3 million. So those winning towns then, and I'm going to go by region and run through these very quickly. You may want to write these down. So in the Northeast region, Northeast and Yorkshire region, we'll do that together. We have Barnsley, Huddersfield, Hull, Leeds, Middlesbrough, North Shields, Scarborough, Skipton and Wakefield. In the Northwest region of regeneration, we have Blackpool, Burnley, Chester, Fleetwood, Kirkham, Lancaster, Cumbria, Prescott, Greater Manchester and Wigan Town Centre. In the Midlands region, we have Brierley Hill, Buxton, Coventry, Leicester, Lincoln, Newark-on-Trent Town Centre, Oswestry, Stoke-on-Trent and Wednesbury Town Centre. In the East of England region, so we have Bedford, we have Dunstable, Great Yarmouth, Kings Lynn and North Welsham. I always never know if I pronounce that correctly. Southwest region, we have Chard, Gloucestershire, great area Gloucestershire, Midsummer Northton, Plymouth, Poole, Tewkesbury, another fantastic area, used to live there, excellent for flips, and Weston-super-Mare as well. London and the Southeast region, we have Croydon, Hastings, Newport, Ramsgate, which is one I've been watching for a while, Reading also following across there, and Tottenham. So just a few of those plans then goes. So in terms of growth zones and infrastructure, one of the things I'd like you guys to Google is A14. So a 1.5 billion A14 Cambridge to Huntingdon improvement scheme includes a major new bypass to the South Huntingdon and upgrades to 21 miles of the A14. So just think about that, in terms of scalability and you actually situating yourself around that and riding off the back of these improvements to the local area. The A14 provides a vital road transport corridor between the North, the West Midlands, the East of England, and of local, regional and national significance. Another one I'd like you to look into, which is huge, is the Big City Plan. And this is for Birmingham. So in the 20-year city plan, so this is a 20-year master plan. It's a vision to encourage and support Birmingham's continuing transformation into a world-class city centre. And being a black country lass, everybody thinks that we're from Birmingham and gives us the Brummie accent, but it's actually very different. But Birmingham is a fantastic city. It is the second city in the UK, in England, and it's had billions of pounds spent on it, and it's actually really, really nice place to be, and very well rounded, very versatile, great employment, some huge names there as well, great footfall in the town centre, entertainment, accommodation, everything is there, so recreational, business and employment, all things around. So I actually do quite a lot of serviced accommodation in Birmingham city centre, and it works very, very well. Northampton has a 675 million Future High Street Fund as well. Not something you want to shy away from. Definitely something you should look into. We have Chesterfield, Waterside, is one of the largest regeneration projects in the UK, a superb and sustainable 320 million mixed-use regeneration programme on the site of the old Traber factory to the immediate north of Chesterfield town centre. Derby City Centre. So the council's city centre master plan sets out a strategic context for investment opportunities in the city in the next 15 years. So this is a 15-year plan. It actually started in 2015 and it will be completed in 2030. So this is demonstrating the council's commitment to the city centre. By 2030, this master plan aims to create 3.5 billion in investment, create 4,000 new jobs and deliver 1,900 new homes to Derby City Centre. Leicester Waterside. So Leicester Waterside is another one for you to take a note of. It's located to the northwest of the city centre, between the A6 and the Raleigh Park, containing the River Soar and Grand Union Canal. Leicester City Council aims to transform Leicester Waterside to attract new investment, which will create a vibrant and thriving new neighbourhood with new homes and new workspaces. In the northeast then, Bolton's town centre master plan is looking very, very viable at this moment in time. Bolton's town centre master plan will be worth 1.2 billion and aims to move the city centre from retail-driven areas to one of residential focus. The commercial to residential will be a great opportunity there. Liverpool 10th Street. Liverpool 10th Street is a regeneration programme for Liverpool's North Docks district. You've got Manchester Mayfield. So this is another 1.4 billion regeneration. So guys, all of this information is out there. I'm naming a few that is significant and, a great area to get into now so that you can obviously ride off the back of the uplift there, being an area where employment is increasing, service the workers that are local and bring some older properties in and regenerate them yourself, and you can have capital uplift there as part of that process as well. So the reason I'm highlighting all of these is because these are points that you really should be taking note of and looking into further. Running the numbers based off the lending that you have available, the rentals, the demand, and looking at what strategies will work well within these areas. So 1.4 billion then regeneration project is set to transform 30 acres site behind Piccadilly Station, and that has been derelict for years, so that's very much welcomed. And that will be the heart of the plans, will be a new 6.5 acre park, and that will be the first in the city for 100 years. Stockport Town Centre is a regeneration programme. Wirral Waters is one of the largest regeneration projects in the UK and plans to transform the 500-acre waterside site into a sustainable location for local and international businesses. Northeast, we have the Dundee Waterfront Master Plan. We have Hartlepool Regeneration Master Plan. That aims to deliver fundamental changes for the town centre, and that's also a 15-year plan. Google Salford Crescent, also Google South Shields 360. And then just to finish off in the northeast, we have Cheltenham Waters as well. So guys, there's a few to name. There's actually a hell of a lot more, but there's a few there for you to look into. So just to finish our update off then, guys, I'm just for our internationals on the call now, I'm going to, I've got a few messages coming through saying the audio is not good. Can you guys hear me okay? Just before I jump in. Can you guys hear me okay? Awesome, that's great. Right, so just to finish off the update then, guys, for our foreign exchange and very much for our internationals, I thought it'd be a good idea to give you an update on all things currency. So we're very much looking ahead to next week's self-imposed Brexit deadline, where Boris has said he would walk away from the negotiation table if there is a no deal in sight. If there isn't a deal in sight, sorry. That was a subliminal message there. There are big ramifications for the pound. So if they extend the deadline, and the pound, that will very much, we will see the pound rise in value. And if I had to guess, that will, if I had to put a guess to it, I would think that would be the outcome. If they walk away, the pound will plummet in value. So next week, we're very much going to understand what's going on there. Nick, our foreign exchange broker at Lighthouse FX, thinks that next week will be the opportunity to grab a weak pound if needed over the next couple of months. That being said, if COVID cases continue to rise, the odds are increasing for a full-blown lockdown, and more local lockdowns are popping up daily, which is bad news for the pound, really. I think yesterday we hit something like 17,000 new cases. Boris and his advisors have said that we will hit 50,000 new cases per day and need a national lockdown. So a top tip from Nick there is there is going to be volatility in the months ahead. So internationals should be looking at taking precautions with, example, stop losses, minimizing your risk or minimizing your exposure, or a forward booking as well. Just so that you can forward plan there, guys, understand exactly what you're going to be getting for your pound, take advantage of the week, the volatility over the next few weeks and months, and of course be in a position to buy here in the UK. So hopefully, guys, that was an insightful update. So we're now going to jump into our guest for today, which actually leads nicely in and follows on nicely from the regeneration, because we're going to be talking to Rico. And Rico is a sourcing agent based up in Stoke-on-Trent, and although he has a very different accent, you will see that when he comes on. But Rico, are you there?
Hi, Hayley. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. I can't say. Oh, there you are. Brilliant.
Yeah, cool.
Where are you from, Rico? Sorry, is it?
Well, everybody thinks I'm Italian.
I thought you were Italian.
And I do actually have Italian passport. I've got 3 passports. I've got the British passport, the Italian passport, but I was born and raised in Argentina. So that's really where I'm born. So to Italian family, but I'm South American and I speak very little Italian. It's mainly Spanish. So yeah, there you go. It's always I know people sometimes for 5+ years, and they been convinced all the time that I was from Italy, but no, South American.
Yeah, until you said, I think it was yesterday we spoke, wasn't it? Until you said yesterday, I completely forgot. I've always thought you were Italian. Anyway, yeah. It's a lovely accent. It's definitely not a local accent of where you're living. So obviously, I know why you're here today. I know we're going to be talking about Stoke-on-Trent and the business that you have there, and obviously your knowledge of the local area, and you've got some regeneration in there as well around Stoke-on-Trent and surrounding areas. But do you want to just introduce yourself, and I'll let you take your slides away from here?
Yep, cool. So what I'll do, okay, great. So well, as you know, guys, my name is Rico and I am a sourcing agent. But before that, I'm a property investor. I've been in properties now since 2012. If we would have spoken in the past, I'm not sure who is in the list. I cannot see in the list, but perhaps some of you might know me. If you know me well enough, you would know that I would have mentioned to you guys, if we did speak one-to-one, that I used to be a guitar teacher. Back in the times, I am a musician in a way, but I don't really do it as a business, just as a hobby. But property, as you can imagine, did change, my life course, slightly, in a sense that, I quit my job and now over, 5-6 years. So that's my background, and I've been in property since 2012. I started my education in 2011, and I am the director and the owner of Treasure Tower, which is my brand, my business in property, which I started very early in stages. That was 2013, 14, I think, and that's how Treasure Towers, when Treasure Towers started. So what I do is, and I'm just going to do it just in one snapshot there, because it's not really the purpose of today's presentation, but I am a sorcerer, as you know. I project manage, and I do the orientation days, discovery days, and I'm starting doing now virtually that as well. What I wanted to explain is that over the last few years, I've gone through quite a few properties now, and I wanted to give you an insight about regeneration schemes. But to start with, is that why did I choose Stoke? That's one of the main thing. And maybe I could just go back in my early careers. I started my training in 2011, as I mentioned to you. I did my mentorship in 2012. Then I started sourcing shortly after, and Treasure Tower, as a sourcing business, started about a year later on. And then I quit my job and I started being full-time early 2015. Now, if I will remember, it was March or April. It was the end of a school term, I remember. So it would have been April, the Easter break. So April 2015 is when I literally just didn't do anything education-wise. But Regeneration Scheme has always been a big one for me. I know that income is perhaps one of the most important reasons why we always get into property, because as we know, and this is how we have been explained, and this is how it is really, that you buy or sell a house, you can make a very good chunk of money, but it's not necessarily a passive income. I don't purely believe on passive income in a sense that you can just you always need to overlook at the portfolio, but the cash flow that you get from the property is essentially what buys you that time. Now, but the one thing is that in the way I have in the past here is that we can often hear that the capital growth, it kind of is either capital growth or income, and you kind of need to sacrifice it, like it's one or the other. But Regeneration Scheme has always been a very important one for a few reasons, which hopefully I will explain today. So how did I do my research? Let me be clear on something. That I invest in Stoke, and I'm hoping that you understand that it is the best area to invest in the entire world. Having said that, the purpose of today's presentation is not really about Stoke. It's what I did in Stoke that made me decide to choose that area. And hopefully you can do the same. Do remember that there's not really the one perfect area. Apart from Stoke, it's always about what you really prefer in terms of even what type of regeneration, what type of strategy you're looking for. So hopefully during today's presentation, when I explain what I've been doing in Stoke from very early in stages, you could also apply it anywhere in the UK. So and if it helps you in your own research about Stoke or Manchester, you name it, or list. Hayley just gave you a big list of regeneration areas. Then great. Key three things that for me that made me decide about my area is the following: is the rental yields, the regeneration schemes, up and coming area, and the strategies as well. So now I didn't take the decision lightly. I didn't just go on the internet first thing. I did drive on the ground. For days, areas such as Nottingham, Mansfield, Nuneaton, all different places in the Midlands. So I first wanted to have a sense of, which I know, especially for an international investor, this is a very difficult one to do. Well, virtually impossible, to be honest. But at least through the eyes of the sourcer, of the people you speak on the ground, you can hopefully get a sense of what it would be in the area. Having said that, if you ever come into the UK, I do suggest, do as many orientation days as you can. The reason why is because by getting to know two different areas, you can compare, and you can actually have a much better judgment about what did you actually prefer. I think that getting to know one area in some way is like getting to, it's like just pretend that you know one person in the world. Then you cannot really gauge whether the person is friendly or not, can you? So it is by relating to many people that you can actually, choose what type of personality you prefer. And I have quite often people who maybe has done an orientation day somewhere else in the area, apart from Stoke, and the penny dropped about Stoke because they managed to make that comparison and they realized that actually, it's better. It helped in making the decision. So on that note, of course, we can do as much research about a regeneration scheme or anything in the country, but sometime a drive through and 1 or 2 days in the area can fast track a few things about how it feels for us. So having said that, let's go into the actual research. Because understandably, for obvious reason of COVID and distance, is realistically the one most important tool for you guys. So in terms of regeneration schemes, I have researched, as I mentioned, quite a few places. The rental yield was a very important one, but the regeneration scheme, the capital growth, in a sense, has been the most important one. And the reason why, for me, it works is very important. Is if I had to split it into some would be two, and the main thing is this: at some point you will retire, and at some point I know I will retire, and I will sell my portfolio. So whether it may be in 5, 10, or 20 or 30 years that I decided to sell, I want to make sure that I cash out well. So on that sense, if I rely on my income or on the property, and then all in a sudden I just get a little bit growth on when I sell my portfolio, and that's it, I know that I cannot become unemployed somewhere 40 years from now. So I do want to make sure that when I sell, I do get a good chunk of money out. So that is one reason. But the other important reason why regeneration scheme is so important is also to support your own income business, in a sense that through refinancing the properties, how we can best recycle the money. So for instance, and I wanted to share one of the screen share about some valuation, but perhaps we'll do it some other time because I don't think I'll be able to do it today. But I have purchased properties, and I used a classic example in 2015. I bought it at £45,000. About 2 years later, I refinanced at £80,000, and that's something that I really for me, it's important because I recycle more and more the money, and clients have been doing the same thing. And then it's how we buy the next property and the next property and the next property. So this is one of the things that I looked. This, of course, about Stoke-on-Trent, 2012. It's a relatively old news, but do bear this in mind, guys. Transforming a city, it takes years, decades sometimes. So it's not when I mention about regeneration scheme, do not take it as it has to be something changing straight away. It is slow. They're very slow changes. Small indicators initially sometimes, especially when you drive through the streets. But they are. It doesn't happen overnight. So it's important to look at. To have that patience in a way. So, when you look at 2012, this news, Heart of Stoke-on-Trent set for dramatic transformation. Sorry, I struggled to say that word. That for me caught my attention. And remember, there was 2012. I was pretty much starting on deciding which area, and of course that wasn't the only check that I made. at the time, but it's definitely how I started. So one of the things I could suggest, guys, also go to the sources of information, and of course, this is a very strong source, the central government. And when I said that it doesn't take, it's not an everyday thing, that it takes time to regenerate a city, then you go now to 2020. I'm not sure if you can actually read this. I've got them quite small, but hopefully you can read. You go to 2020 new pages, and it's the same part of the regeneration. Multi-million project to regenerate Hanley's old bus station with indoor area, hotel, cinema, and homes to be marketed across the world. So it took 8 years to many of the things to start materializing, but that's about regeneration. It's about to follow that. It's more of a trend rather than, this regeneration and that's it. Everything's going to be changed in a year time, especially when it comes to transforming a city. So, and this is the reason why I am still in the Stoke-on-Trent area. I'm very happy to say that, I got it right. Basically, I had a strong sense that the city was going to grow a lot, and hell, it is. So one of the key things, and you can, if you want to do your own research, and perhaps you've got a little bit of help in what I'm showing you now, just go to Stoke-on-Trent regeneration plans. For example, Stoke-on-Trent, the council has made their own website, which is this one. I'm not sure if you can see my cursor, but I'm just circling the one on the right hand side. And they've got their own website about it, showing about what's happening in the town centre from the business side of things, the industry sector, the residential. They've got a section about residential regeneration schemes, and then you'll be able to read more about it. Okay, now remember, it's not about Stoke-on-Trent, but having gone through what I'm showing you now, why not replicating? Simply for the practicality of learning, just replicate it in other cities, and then you can do, if you're interested, for example, in purchasing or investing in Burnley, just test it out. Burnley regeneration scheme, and that could be a very good start. See what comes out first organically, and then you can do your finer research. So again, part of the regenerations in the area, it shows already the plans of what is going to be looking in the future. It's not that pretty nowadays, but that's good. That's exactly what you want to buy. So in fact, I remember the Stoke area back in 2012. I was driving through some places in which I wouldn't even touch with a barge pole. But now there's so much nicer. You've got, for example, the Hilton Hotel, what you've got in now. It used to be a whole green, empty space. All right. I did look at for certain brands, businesses, or chains. And the Hilton Hotel, this has been announced about 3 years ago, announces plans to open a hotel. Why is this so important? So now, I'm not going to stay in that hotel, and it's quite likely that you guys won't stay in that hotel either. But what it tells you is this, that, for companies like that to be so, what this type of news it tells me between the lines is how confident these companies are in investing in the city. So, of course, before they make a decision to put all those £1 million, all the demographic research that these chains have to make goes way deeper layers than you and I can guys put together. So that's why Hilton, take a look at Hilton, any big franchises, any big businesses, as well as, for example, Starbucks, because of the franchise, they don't just open a new store anywhere. So, for example, back in 2012, there was, if lucky, maybe one Starbucks in the Stoke-on-Trent area, and now there's all of them. And I'm sure that you would have gone through this with your training, but Starbucks, Costa, Waitrose, Mark and Spencer. There's quite a few different brands that is a good indicator that when they open a new shop, because remember, they would have already done the research for you. So what I'm saying is that in residential areas, when you see these type of things, doesn't mean that you're just not going to your homework, but certainly they have done enough homework to themselves into the business. So the other thing to look into is investment from overseas and how the area is seen from international investors. I'm not looking into, I'm not referring to international investors like you and I, guys, wanted to buy some houses. I'm looking more to big investment. So one of the things that happened, for example, about Stoke is that a big investment, when it says, master plan from new platform, hotel and offices promoted to investors in French Riviera, which was like investors show type of thing, which is ironically one of the core parts of the regeneration schemes that have now been doing. So if you're looking to purchase into a different place, also look at how, all the investment, how much money is being put into the city apart from the government. And Stoke-on-Trent has now been pitched internationally, and this not through a source necessarily, through much bigger chains. So again, that's another thing, guys, for you to look into. Economic growth. So that's a tricky one, because I have not necessarily found it very easily in not even about Stoke, but many places. It's normally we get the growth, at least I come across quite a growth about counties, or more, of course, about the much wider region. But one of the things, for instance, that I really love about my area is that you've got things on the left-hand side, Stoke at the forefront of economic growth. So on the last few years, up to 2015, it had growth, over 18% worth of economic growth compared to the 3.2, I think it was national average at the time. Yes. So, and that's what I like to see. So part of the economic growth is given because of all the money put into the regenerations. But there's something else also I wanted to point out, that which I did not mention at the very beginning, business rates. Now, business rate does not have to be a deal breaker, but one of the things that have, maybe I have to refer more to the history, and this how far sometimes you may have to go when you look at an area. For international investors, guys, I do have to say, perhaps it is very important for your own research, but you have to tap onto your sourcer, in a sense that, understandably, you won't be able maybe just focus 24/7 on one area when you are 12 hours drive. But this is something that, you will want to know anyway. But part of the history of this Stoke-on-Trent is many decades ago, the main economy used to be the potteries, the ceramic making. So once China took over the market, the whole place collapsed. So a lot of unemployment, a lot of factories empty, and a lot of empty houses. And even until today, you can see a row of empty houses all boarded up, same as factories that's just in ruin, which is great, because the council now wants you to do something with it. But something that has been quite clever is that back in 2011, if I will remember, it has been rated the lowest place for business to settle, because of the business rate. So since then, you've got a lot of companies moving into the Stoke area. You've got Bet365, which is a FTSE company, Vodafone, Michelin, long-standing there, JCB, FedEx, Amazon have a big warehouse. So that's because of that incentive, by lowering the business rates, and also the waive all business rates for the lower businesses, then that incentivizes the economy. So that means that it's much easier for me to start a business, to rent a shop, because I know that the only outgoing will be the rent and the bills. And if you don't know what business rate is, and I thought maybe I should have mentioned this before, it's like a council tax for a business. Let's put it that way. I open a library and I need to pay instead of a council tax, I do pay a rate to the council. So a business rate, but just for simplicity, for now, we can refer it as a council tax for a business. So when you don't have to pay council tax, it makes it much easier. So that was happened with businesses. So since then, for the last 20 plus years, Stoke-on-Trent has been growing a lot, both in new business growing up and settling back in the Stoke area, which is the reason why also that certainly was a key factor of looking into the growth, the economic growth of the area, up to a point that, for example, on your right, now you have seen these, not 2015, these 2019. I cannot remember I cannot see the actual screen is too little, but I know it would have been 2019. One of the headlines, fourth fastest economy in the country. Stoke-on-Trent among the best in UK employment for growth. So I cannot actually read the smaller prints, but we have even come ahead Manchester, Birmingham, London. And and it's something very difficult to know if you are, especially for people in the south. Stoke-on-Trent would have never, people would have never believed that it would have been so ahead in terms of employment growth. So now, what I'm telling you here, guys, and I know I mentioned about the business rate, the employment, the industrial residential, business residential. I didn't talk yet much about the business regeneration. I didn't talk yet much about the residential regeneration, but I'll cover it shortly. But I know that this is a bit of a puzzle. So there's no, maybe I'm wrong, but I'll just give you a bit of a preamble on this. That's a bit of a warning. There's no web page, there's no site, there's no information that is going to tell you this is the area. I think that about discovering the whole clues about an area growth, it's like putting a puzzle together. You look a bit of the council website, but also you look at other factors, and then you get a bigger picture of what everything is going to be like, or is bound to be like in the future. For instance, what I showed you before, if you were to base only on the Stoke-on-Trent, page, that is a very strong source, of course, but it's not it. There's a lot more, and I'm going to show you what else confirms parts of those regeneration and adds extra information. So in terms of the employment and the economy, then in terms of your specific strategies, the third reason why I like Stoke-on-Trent is because you could pretty much do anything. I remember that at the time I wasn't looking for any conversion or anything too fancy, but buy to let, all those type of strategies, are what I was looking for. Having said that, I didn't know that whenever I had to change strategies, I didn't want to start again somewhere else. So I wanted to be in a place in which I can do pretty much at least the majority of the things. And in the Stoke area, you can do everything. You can do buy-to-lets, HMOs. Within the HMO market, you've got quite a few different type of tenancy markets. You also have the conversions because of the history of the empty buildings, and a lot of, and certainly you can do flips as well. Okay, so another thing that certainly you may want to look into is the student markets. And this is not necessarily, this is not because you may want to do students, but in the way I see it as well, if there's no university, then you know that from the HMO market, the professional market may be the one, strategy. So the competition will likely to be perhaps even harder. So in this case, having different type of strategies give you choices. So something else that I really liked about the Stoke-on-Trent is that the university is very strong. Check for universities, colleges, and mainly universities, of course. In this case, for instance, in 2016, we got the news, 14, we got the news about a big regeneration plans in the Stoke-on-Trent, which started kicking off in 2-3 years later, up to a point that Stafford Uni campus, which is a city near Stoke, they shut down. So that's not a good news if you're a student in Stafford, but very good news if you're a landlord in the Stoke area, because all those students then relocated to the Stoke market in Stoke City. And I did take a couple of photos of that was literally, a month ago, you would say, 9th of October. Yeah, 7th of September, exactly a month ago. And the expansion is still ongoing. Now, remember that regeneration schemes in the university, you need to look at, you need to read between the lines, in a sense that they could have well been building accommodation for students, but they're not doing that. They're just literally expanding the student, rooms, or classrooms, the actual university. So that's a very important one in terms of transport. So, pardon me. So in terms of transport, you've got things like these that came out. I can't remember how long it was, but it wasn't long ago, about 12, 18 months, the latest. So Stoke-on-Trent is ideal location for multi-million pounds airport expansion hub. This came from Heathrow officials. So it's not yet happening. It's not really a part of the planning application just yet. But what does tell you is that but the mere fact of being considered, then it is also something, a good sign from for us to look further. And when you look at it, then it makes perfect sense when you look to have an airport in there, because again, going back to transport, I'm not going to say, guys, that you have to buy a property near the HS2. But what I have to say, and this is my personal opinion, I might well be wrong, but the HS2, as we know, is going to cost a lot of money, and it's not going to be done overnight. So it's a big process. It had, created a lot of sorts of discussion, to say the least, across the board. So in order to make for the government, or in order to make that such a big investment worth, you also need to make sure that people use it. So the purpose of the HS2, the main aim is to connect the north to the south. Is to decentralize in a way London, and to make more that connection from the northern region or Midlands, all the way to the south. In principle, it's going to take people from Stoke-on-Crewe to London Euston in less than an hour. That's great news. Okay, so that means that it's going to facilitate people to work from Stoke to work in London potentially. So ironically, it's going to make quicker traveling from Stoke to London Euston than from East London to West London in some way. Having said that, so in order to connect the most, the more you regenerate all these cities across the link, the HS, the high speed railway, then the better that investment in itself works. So again, I'm not saying that I will, but I personally will, but I'm not saying that near HS2 is the one place to buy in the Midlands. But all I have to say is that they are bound to be regenerated quite a lot, because in that way, then more people will be using it. As simple as that. The bigger the cities, connected to that, the better it will be. So HS2, I think Hayley mentioned before, is a very big sign in terms of mapping around where most of the money may be going. In the few years, a few decades, shall I say. So in terms of, I wanted to show you, and this moment I have to apologize, guys, I won't be able to do it because I wanted to do a screen share, basically me on Google Maps showing you some sign of regenerations, some past and current ones. in the ST1, ST2, ST3, 4, and 5, which is Stoke on Trent. I didn't mention ST6 or 7, but it would have taken too long. But these one are very, very clear. But what I will tell you is this: when you drive through the streets, or when you Google streets in some Google Street, and I just made up a word. When you're going through a street, a very strong indication of regeneration scheme, and you come across this in Stoke so many times, is when you look at these very contrasting, sort of views. So, for example, you look at quite a few places that are still drive-through, and you can see a big empty building or a whole row of empty houses on one side, and a black brand new block of flats on the other side. So in a nutshell, you've got what it is or what it used to be and what the council wants you to do. So the Stoke on Trent is very, very black and white in that sense. And right now, for instance, we're completing for clients on 2 properties, in which one of them is literally across the road from 28 row of brand new builds, detached and semi-detached. And then the other client is buying just around the corner. So we're talking about 30 minutes walk. So we don't want to touch those new builds. I'm sure that that's is the last thing you want to buy. But any rundown house nearby is a place that I would encourage you to take a look at. So not because of the actual property values automatically going to change overnight. Again, it's a low burner. But the most important is that the whole area is going to be revamped. It's not only about the growth, it's about the rentability, it's many factors. But once again, the capital growth will help on your income strategy. Because at some point, if you are looking to value the property in the future, it is bound to value even better in years to come. But most importantly, your income, your rentability on an area. Of course, the nicest it is, the better it is, and for the rent. So even though we're looking for, even though I'm talking first person in this case, even though I'm looking for an income strategy, I haven't sold a house yet. I don't know what it feels like. Everything I bought, I kept. But even though I'm looking for passive income, I'm also in some way trying to, as much as I can, look at it like a stock market, in a way, like I want to buy when it's cheap, and then let it grow, because later on, any capital growth, it will be a very good bonus. And for me, that bonus is very, very important, in which you can use that in advance when you refinance a property, of course. So, all right, cool. I did at least put a valuation of something recent, and I think I was sharing this to a mentee of Hayley a few days ago, which is it's a very nice example. And okay, cool. There's a street there, Norfolk Street. So I suggest, guys, that if you want to discover, what this is, what I was referring to, this contrasting black and white thing, go to Norfolk Street. You've got the postcode, go to Google Map ST1 4PB. You don't have to do it now, but you can do it after. I'm not sure how Google Map is updated now, but if you look at that street today, then you've got a whole, all properties. In fact, that cluster of properties at the moment are not necessarily the nicest looking, slightly run down area, but literally on that same street, on the other side, you've got a whole big regeneration, a big block of brand new properties. So, and that's where I, again, we don't want to buy any of those houses, but anything ideally across the road, then that's what we want. So we've got things like, purchasing the property, £92,000, and then we've got a GDV of 130,000, and the rentability is shown here. 16,000, over £16,000, and this was made in July 2020. So these type of things. Now, regeneration schemes and those things won't guarantee, having the top refinance, but of course, the more you've got, then the likelihood you are to get your your desired or more price, or at least to minimize any down valuation, which happens. It's part of, as an investor, that we often have to take on the chin. I mentioned about employers. Do go to your area or your area of research and click, key employers for Barnsley, key employers for Crewe, Stoke, key employers for, if you put Manchester, that's a too bigger area, but perhaps different, areas in there. Or you can try Manchester. I didn't do it anytime recently, but go and see what is the new businesses there, what are the employment rates, and also the type of employers. Sometimes it can give you some ideas of the livelihood of the tenants as well. For example, I did put Bentley here. It's actually based in Crewe. But for us, having the Bentley Motors in Crewe, it gives two different things. I had tenants who used to be what do you call it? When somebody is learning for a few years, it's not students in Bentley. Sorry? Apprentice. Thank you, Hayley. Yeah, I would have stayed here for 30 minutes otherwise. Yeah. All right. An apprentice. I had a lot of apprentices, on HMOs in Crewe. But on the other hand, it gives a very strong near the factory. You've got it's very strong for family buy-to-let, and that's normally the workers. Different type of employers who are just settling in the Crewe area with a very a long-term job near the factory. So employers will tell you quite a lot about the economy, what's happening in the regeneration schemes, but also in terms of the rental. And the reason why it's good that I'm actually mentioning Bentley as well, because as I'm talking about Bentley, I also remember Bentley has also gone through quite of a big expansion. Part of the homework I suggest that you may do is check best employers in the Crewe area. And Bentley, a few years back, has been rated one of the best UK employers. And also they have gone through a lot of expansion. So, it was actually a good one to mention. On the other hand, Vodafone, Bet365, they have made their own branded buildings in the Stoke area. They're there to stay. Michelin has been there for quite some time. JCB, massive warehouse, especially if you're driving through from Birmingham area, you pass it by. As I mentioned, there's a few other ones such as Amazon, FedEx. They've got big warehouses. But again, this is not about Stoke. It's about your research. So if you are guys looking into, if you are buying in, could be anywhere, Nottingham, then look at, what I've been going through, all these key points. Do it in there. It's not because whether you decide whether you buy another one or not there, but it's just simply to orientate yourself what might be best to do next. So again, if you did know about what Bentley is doing right now, then you would orientate your purchases maybe around the factory. So yeah, that's what I was referring, not necessarily whether the area is good or not. If the property is working, then of course the area is good. So part of what if you want to download part of this presentation with this news, you can do it from here. I've got a tab that says free resources. You can download. You don't need to sign into anything. It's just yours. So again, the one on my webpage, understandably, of course, is all about Stoke, because don't forget, after any chat I can tell you about Regeneration Scheme, it will always be the best place to buy houses. But the thing is that I'm hoping that all the news that you've got in the Stoke area, then you can replicate exactly the same thing in your own current investment, and hopefully you get nicer and nicer surprises as you go through different layers. Now I'm aware that we've been an hour, so I'm not sure which part of the world you guys may be, but I know that for some it may be a Friday evening now. So yeah, I just wanted to ask you guys, do you have any questions?
Brilliant. Thank you, Rico. That was really in depth. So obviously you think that Stoke-on-Trent is the best place on the planet.
Yeah.
I think we've got quite a few questions actually. So I'm going to take through and I'll start reading some off. So we've got one here that says, Rico, what is the main economic booster, so employment in Stoke-on-Trent? I think you just went through that with your last slide. Sorry guys, I've got a very needy dog today and she won't go anywhere other than my lap, so she's actually been laying underneath the table the whole of this time. She wants to say hi. This is Lola. This is my furry daughter.
Lola, yeah.
Who are the largest employers then in Stoke-on-Trent, would you say?
Well, as I was mentioning on the slides, I mean, one of the key ones, if there is a brand I would personally represent with connected with Stoke, that's Michelin. That's been there for quite some time, and it's been perhaps one of the strongest, long-lasting big employment because, of course, it's a well-recognized brand. But then one of the I think that you mentioned that she asked booster. If there's one, is there something I have to maybe in my opinion, as one of the biggest booster has been the business rate. Lowering that out because that incentivized a lot of companies moved in. So Bet365 now is a very, very strong employer, yet it wasn't there before, but it was, the part of the regeneration schemes, I presume is not only putting money, but just reducing, your rates, so, and that incentivized quite a few employers to move in. So that was certainly, in my opinion, one of the key boosters. Key employers right now, you've got Bet365, Michelin, Amazon. They're very strong in the area.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, we've got another question. I think it's just a general question. So most people are saying how lovely Lola is. She's an attention seeker and definitely would appreciate all the compliments if she could understand them. So thank you. But we have a question about GDV. So the question is, what is GDV and is it important really? So GDV is a gross development value. So that could be of your site, of your development, or the end value is something that you're looking to do. It's very, very important. You can't run your numbers without working out what the gross development value is. And actually getting that wrong could have a massive negative impact on your profit margin. So yes, it is very important. You do have to qualify that prior to purchasing anything, and without having that value in mind and comparables to back that up, you can't run your numbers correctly. To add to that, Rico?
No, but yeah, but that is the is the end value where you start from. Ironically, it's the GDV, and then you work backwards on your calculations. Yeah,
brilliant, awesome. So I don't think there's any. Have we got some more questions? We've got no questions on here.
Maybe on the note of the GDV, which is the reason why I always consider regeneration schemes so important, because eventually that's going to be your end value of your own portfolio as well, over time.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I always look at what it's going to be worth. So if I was to value it today and the work was done today, how much would it be worth today? But absolutely, we can take into consideration.
Yeah, it's an extra.
Yeah,
it's an extra.
Bonus, so 100%. So if you're buying in an area that has a positive uplift and there's lots of regeneration, of course, properties, employment's going to rise, properties are going to rise, demand is going to rise, everything's going to get better. So that's actually a very, very good reason why we look at those types of areas of large developments and projects that are happening that can boost the economy basically.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you then. So what's the best opportunity right now in Stoke-on-Trent? What do you think would be the best opportunity to move forward with in terms of strategies?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to students is right now I'm buying a student property.
Mm-hmm.
So clients of mine are buying pretty much the same type of student properties that we're doing. The reason why I like students is because you just cannot get it wrong. It's a very strong rent. It's in very high demand. We have gone through over at least 25 to 35 properties in the last few years on the student market, and we have had maybe a void for a month, the longest in any of them. It's a very, very strong market. So we don't have we haven't had any issue on the student market. So if you want to go in a way safe but still with a very good return, the student market. The other reason why I also like the student market in the Stoke area, because it does give you a very good exit strategy, in a sense that when you buy a house, you refurbish it and you get the tenants in place. Then if you put that back in the market, it's not going to make somebody rich with a big £50,000 worth of profits on a resale. But when you sell that that property as a bespoke product, already giving money from day one, then people do pay more, especially people who may not be in depth, on the training as you guys are, and understandably, they still get a very good return. So they will pay, £10,000-15,000 more for something that is already working, risk-free, in a sense, that you already done the refurbishment. So I like student for that reason. Then on the other hand, I'm doing a lot of stuff, in the West Handley area, and I'm aware, guys, that you don't know what Handley perhaps even is. But I used to do quite a lot in East Handley, West Handley. 8 years ago, it was quite, very rundown. But now there's a lot of pockets of a lot of residential regeneration schemes. And these perhaps one of the things I wanted to show you guys, that when you drive through, you've got a whole bunch of nuts and gravel, and then on the right hand side you've got a whole new blocks of flats and houses. So we're doing quite a lot in those pockets. In this case, of course, not the new builds, but any of course we don't want to reinvent the wheel, just buying the houses nearby. And then they are refinancing quite well, they are renting well, but we know that in the future also they're going to sell even better.
Awesome. Okay, got a few more questions then. So Helen said, is Stoke-on-Trent very much a HMO market or a buy-to-let area as well?
It's both. That's why I like it.
Okay, yeah. Good, brilliant. And so from do you do the management of the HMOs, or do you have a specific management company that looks after them for you?
So under Treasure Tower, under my business, I do everything except letting.
Okay.
So, but I do work with, my own letting agents, which are the ones that I would put in contact with clients. There are teams, that would specialize on students, service accommodation, professionals, buy-to-let, social housing, asylum seekers, something I do quite a lot myself. And that's, I've got the teams, that I put clients in contact with.
Brilliant. And have you seen any negative impact on the student market due to COVID? Have you had any feedback from clients that perhaps you've sourced properties to, or is it all smoothly?
I suppose that the question should be the other way around. Have you seen any positive impact of COVID? I mean, of course, I've seen a lot of positive things, because I suppose it made us reflect in many ways, globally and as well as individually. But specifically in property, about the student market, certainly, we've got the properties are rented out. We don't have any voids on any of the houses. But what it has happened, for instance, is that some students, because university have been so vague, understandably, because everybody has been improvised, nobody knew exactly what was happening. So, for example, what we have done in a few houses, not all of them, we have taken a contract, at least for the first part of all students together. So, for instance, instead of doing £85-95 times 3 rooms, we have rented an HMO, £525. They pay all the bills. So, £525 is a small one, and then we, later on we'll remarket it as a 3 rooms, just to incentivize students to say, look, I know that you don't know what's happening just yet, but at least you can be here with relatively, lower cost. and that gives us a bit of a cash flow on our side, well, the client in this case. And but we are but yeah, of course, we do have a business later from September 2021. For instance, this student property that I'm purchasing right now, it is marketed, rented in the same way at 475, which is not a lot of money at all. So in some way, I'm not going to say that I'm writing off the first, the next 6 months, but yes, it's going to be bumpy. So I'm not necessarily expecting of having an income of £1,000 plus. But from my view, for the students, will re-kickstart in September 2021. That's not to say that HMOs on a single let are not being rented. I've got my clients who are rented exactly at the same rate as before. Don't forget that the contract has been signed earlier on last year, and the rent is essentially coming from the student grants who already been granted. So yeah, I'm just saying, if you're buying a property right now, then don't. I personally don't necessarily expect you, rent it out until at least September on a room basis.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Well, that kind of answers the next couple of questions. So we've got Helen, who's looking to buy an ongoing concern, so an operating HMO, fully tenanted, I'm assuming, in the Stoke-on-Trent area, and she's asked if you could advise her there. So Helen, feel free to reach out to Rico, of course, if there's anything he can help you with. I'm sure he's the guy that would. One thing I would say to you is you definitely need to check out the supply and the demand elements. So pop over to Spare Rooms, Room Buddies, Roomster, Flat Club.
Yes.
Have a look on Rightmove for rent as well, also Open Rent, and really have a look at the demand, how many people are actually looking, what's the current supply as well. Because one thing you do, and I'm not suggesting that this is Stoke-on-Trent at all, but I've seen this happen quite a lot recently, is there's a lot of HMO landlords that are struggling to tenant their properties, or perhaps looking to get out of the market due to high voids at this moment in time, down to the area being saturated, and they're selling ongoing concerns to novice investors. So
yes,
be careful of that. You don't want to be their victim, and you don't want to be purchasing a problem. On paper, a deal may look fantastic, but in reality, unless we can achieve those figures, it's, like I always say, not worth the paper.
Yeah, I cannot remember which strategy is the one that you mentioned that is fine, but especially in the HMO professional side, it's be wary, because the competition is ferocious, and things, any deal can look great on paper, and but in practicality, even in my own experience, I've got now. For example, 4 professional HMOs, which some of them now I have changed it to asylum seekers, because I rather minimize the income and just don't hear about those properties, and I haven't heard them for years. But for example, the ones that have taken a bit more time and management has been the professional side. But you need to keep up on things. But nowadays, if you are going to do a professional HMO, you need to make sure that you've got top specs, like kind of nearly hotel type of property. But yeah, drop me a line, and if I can help, then yeah, I can just give you my suggestion what to do next.
Yeah, guys, Rico, of course, is a sourcing agent, so someone saying, does Rico advertise properties? I think you are going to be putting your deals through Premier Investment Vault when it goes live as well. But he has an emailing list, so yes, get yourself added to there. That's, at the end of the day, we're all about connecting good people to good people. Rico's been in the industry for a long time. He knows his area like the back of his hand, and, that's what you want from your sourcing agent. So 100%, yeah, get in touch. Sorry, Lola is driving me. She's hilarious, though. She's running around in circles underneath my chair, and you hear her complaining when she's wanted to jump back on my lap. She's misbehaving, bless her. Right, so I actually think that's all of the questions.
Cool.
There are a few questions that were sent through last week that we didn't have time to answer. One of them was, what are the strategies that you're focusing on right now? And so you've just said that you're focusing on HMOs. Me personally, we're looking at commercial conversions. I think that's a great opportunity that has come out of COVID as well. And of course, with the planning reform and flexibility around planning now, it makes it much easier for us. So that's very much a strategy that I'm focusing on, and that will be to produce buy-to-lets with inside the conversion, but also HMO student-let, which is for a local university, and service accommodation as well. So that's very much what we're focusing on at this moment in time, commercial conversions, adopting those three strategies. So similar to what you're kind of focusing on as well. And the opportunities you've identified within Stoke, a lot of commercial buildings coming up for sale.
Yeah, I'm loving Stoke for that reason as well, because, well, you don't have a guarantee on getting a planning application. The council is more pro in trying to help you with it. And the other important thing, and this is another sign of the council wanted to, regenerate the area, is that right now in the Stoke, they're giving grants. So if you buy a property in the Stoke-on-Trent area and you become a creditor landlord in the area, then you get access to grants, when they become available. Mm-hmm. So those type of things are, they're not always, depending which type of grants, they're not always, the best suitable for you. But again, it's just another sign that, they want to change things. So at the moment, we're going through 2 flat conversions. In those empty houses for quite some time, and we just went through the planning with no issue whatsoever.
Brilliant. Fantastic. What's your opinion on rents dipping? So there's been some talk around lots of different industry experts that have said that rents will drop between 3 and 5%. Personally, I don't agree with that. I think it's very much going to depend on the demand for accommodation in that particular area and the type of accommodation you're putting to the market. As long as you qualify that up front and the demand stays high and the supply doesn't exceed that, and you've got a good ratio there of 2 to 1 or even 3 to 1, I can't.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same thing. There's a lot of, I don't really read. The last thing I go to look at the market is reading those headlines, on public newspaper more than anything. That I just call them more rather than clickbait than actual, informative headlines. So I don't think that's. I disagree with it. Yeah. All I can say is that things have been rented very strong, and if not. At the moment we have been doing, and this not post-COVID, even before, a little bit more than what it was a year or 2 years ago. Yeah. So in terms of income, so no, I don't.
No, I think these percentages are very much based off a UK average. But if you look at the likes of London and Edinburgh, yes, they're probably going to drop between 3 and 5% because there's an oversupply, and people are actually looking now to relocate into obviously cheaper locations for them to be able to still commute. And you've had a lot of people moving away from those major towns and city centres due to the fact job losses, or actually
city centres is something, for instance, that may take a dip, but depending which city, as you said, London, perhaps Cambridge, much higher end rent.
Yeah, absolutely agree. So take it with a pinch of salt when you hear these things, guys, because they're very much people that are just looking at the overall market, not the micro markets that we're operating in. So it is very broad figure, and there will be some areas that will drop, but as long as we qualify the demand up front and we do our own due diligence, if the demand is high, then the rents won't drop. It's a simple law of supply and demand, and that's always what you have to check out. So I think that's it then, Rico. There's no more questions coming through. So guys, if you want to get in contact with Rico, what's your website again, Rico?
It's treasuretower.co.uk, and what I can do, I'll put it up. Let's see, this is me. So treasuretower.co.uk. Well, ironically, I don't have the website here, but you've got the Facebook and Instagram group. You can always book an appointment, treasuretower.sedmore.com. You can choose a time. And if you want to say, if you've got any queries or want to know anything, just give me a shout.
Brilliant. Awesome. Thank you very much, Rico. I'll probably see you over the next couple of weeks again.
Yeah.
Enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you ever so much for your presentation today. It was awesome. And have a great weekend.
You too, guys. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Right, guys, so I'm just going to talk to you just the usual updates very quickly. We've kept you for an hour and 20 minutes now. So Premier Investment Vault, to get registered for that is www.premierinvestmentvault.co.uk, and that will get you registered inside the vault. In terms of our website, guys, we're adding more and more courses to the website daily. A lot of the on-demand courses are now going live, so you've had Coming Soon for a while because they had to be recorded, etc. And of course, we haven't been able to deliver the live training face-to-face in our classroom at our headquarters due to the fact of restrictions around number of people in a room and things like that. So you guys have only been able to register your interest. But if you want to get your journey started, you can jump on to one of the on-demand courses, which is fully online and at your own leisure, and you get lifetime access to that as well and can rewatch it as many times as you choose. So we've got more and more courses coming out each week. It's been a busy time for us at Your Freedom Empire, but we are the full one-stop shop. We look at everything from negotiation, communication, health and wellness and mindset, and also investing here in the UK property market and building a sustainable and scalable business successfully. We look at every single strategy, guys, so no matter where you are, whether you are experienced and you're looking to up your game, there is something for everyone. So whether you are a beginner starting out, whether you are financing from a point of having to be creative, or whether you have millions of pounds in the bank, it doesn't matter of your profile. There is something that fits all, and there is nowhere we can't take you. That was a great sales pitch, wasn't it? Right. Guys, we're still doing the virtual property wealth mentorships. I've been on mentorship this week as well with a lovely lady, Lisa, and we had an awesome 3 days together. She is now fully set to invest here in the UK property market with her company set up, her bank account set up, her power team in hand, and her strategy refined, and a goal set for her over the next 10 years. So if you want to be in that position, guys, you can book your property wealth mentorship through our online program, and you can do that through our website at www.yourfreedomempire.co.uk. And then, guys, if you want a consultation call, you can book a free call. It is 30 minutes just to talk through anything. So some of the questions coming through were about, what's GDV, or how do you value, or, how do you check demand? If you're looking at anything like that, guys, we can have a quick 30-minute call and we can go through that with you. So if you're interested and you want to talk to an expert, it will either be myself or one of our team. You can very much choose who you want that conversation to be with based off their profile, but you just pop an email to admin@yourfreedomempire.co.uk and pop in the box there, free call. And then, guys, just as you did last week and this week, the questions, if you can't make the call, it is replayed on YouTube at on your Freedom Empire site. So if you want your questions answered and you can't make the call, of course, we will always prioritize live people that are on the call, but we will still answer questions that come through to us. So pop your questions through to admin again at yourfreedomempire.co.uk and pop in the subject box there, webinar questions. And then, guys, it's that time of the week again. It's Friday. I have an absolute unbelievable busy diary today, meeting after meeting, all great stuff and all great for Your Freedom Empire and our new platform, Premier Investment Vault, as well. So very excited to jump into all of those meetings. But guys, I've had an awesome week. I hope you all have as well. And make sure you celebrate all the little wins that you've had this week, and have an awesome weekend. And I'll see you again next week. Goodbye for now.